Hello everyone, this is Summer, and I thought I'll make a video because I was explaining this to far too many people. So a lot of people have been asking me in my circle, is Bitcoin going to zero? And in fact, my father has been a big supporter of Bitcoin for quite some time, and this time he also told me that he's feeling a bit afraid that it might go to zero. And then I thought that the fear is real, the blood in the streets is real this time. And it's maybe let me make a video and post it so I don't have to explain it every time what I think. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but this is just what I think. So first of all, let's discuss why do people think that Bitcoin is going to zero, it might go to zero. And yeah, so here are the points. So biggest factor is obviously the financial crash happened, and there were a few big crashes in crypto, right? One was Terra Luna crash. The Celsius network is also kind of looking dodgy. So Terra Luna went to just zero, and people are afraid. A lot of people think that the whole crypto is one big basket. So that's basically the biggest factor that people think. Second factor people mention very commonly is that Bitcoin was supposed to be a hedge against inflation, but inflation is at an all-time high and Bitcoin is crashed. So it's kind of the opposite thing happening, and that's the second I would say reasoning that people have. I'll give my thoughts one by one. And third is the digital store of value thesis is still also not completely proven because the total asset size is just so small. Bitcoin at this point is about $400 billion in total, and gold is $10 trillion in comparison. So it's very, very small to be a digital store of wealth at this point. And so why is it going to zero or not? So here are my thoughts. So see guys, what has happened is Bitcoin is a very new asset class, right? The whole crypto industry is a very new asset class. So for this inflation thesis to be true, I think if you look at the point since Bitcoin came out, and if you look at year-on-year growth, it's actually not bad, right? The only thing is that if you look at the last 6 months, then Bitcoin is doing badly. So I think you should still not see Bitcoin as crashing 80%, but you should see it as growing a few 1,000% in the last 3 years or 4 years. That's how you should see it, if you look at it as an asset class. That's how I look at it, right? I know it will be difficult for people who have gotten into Bitcoin just in the last 1 year to look at it at that point of view, but that's the reality. That's how I see it. That's number one. Number two, the Terra Luna crash, I think what is going to happen is it's going to actually make Bitcoin the undisputed crypto winner, right? Because if you see, there is crypto as an asset class in total, and then within crypto there is a Bitcoin camp, Bitcoin maximalist camp, which is, let's say I am part of that. I believe in Bitcoin, and then there are people who believe in the decentralized finance, so to speak. I don't believe in it. I can make a new video why I don't believe in it. But I think there's a lot of scams, a lot of hot gas there than real value at this moment, right? The technology is interesting, but there's too many scams happening, and that's a problem. In Bitcoin, there can't be a scam because there is no centralization. Decentralized finance is actually completely centralized. So that's what I think. Bitcoin is going to become the winner in crypto asset space because of these crashes and because of these issues. And then we come to what will happen in the next let's say 4 or 5 years because of all the macroeconomic factors going on. So for example, if you look at the Ukraine Russia war, I think a big factor that is going to happen is that people have already started to look beyond US dollar, right, as the global reserve currency. And one misconception that people have is that is global, do you have enough Bitcoin for it to become a global reserve currency. See, actually, global reserve currency is more like a benchmark, right? Against which you measure every other currency. So for that, you don't need actually, a lot of asset class to be traded or changing hands. It's more about having a standard with which you can compare every currency to, which is dollar right now, right? And that's why people give and take dollar also. But if you don't, if you just want to exchange two currencies, you can do that against a standard currency, right? That's, I think, the bigger uh, meaty, I would say, piece of the puzzle, right? If Bitcoin becomes that standard, it'll still take a few years, 5 years at the least. But I can tell you, I have customers in Africa who already pay me in Bitcoin, right? For our services. And just a side note, guys, before any government guy thinks hears this and comes to us raiding our offices thinking we are charging anything in Bitcoin. We are not taking any Bitcoin payments in India. We are legally compliant and we're taking everything in US in the right compliant manner. So that's a side note, because in India, government authorities hear Bitcoin or crypto and they start thinking, okay, let me trade it and maybe extort some money out of it. Sorry, that's just truth. Somebody might feel bad about it, but anyway. So my thoughts are, it is going to become a global reserve currency as a standard, because the price of Bitcoin is not defined by any monetary policy by government, be it US, be it China, be it anybody else. That is, I think, the biggest factor. People don't trust their governments like they used to, let's say 20 years ago or maybe 100 years ago. And that is the reason, when you don't trust anybody, who do you trust? You trust something that is essentially built in a trustless way. And that is what Bitcoin is. And that's why I think in the long term, it is definitely going to become that global reserve currency. In the short term, why is the inflation thesis not working? The inflation thesis is not working because it's a risk asset in the short term. It's only 10-year-old asset. So it is not something that everybody goes to by default. It takes hundreds of years for that kind of trust to build. And I think Bitcoin is getting there. If you think about it, all these crashes in crypto market, they just tell us that crypto has a lot of hot air which is going to get deflated. And in my opinion, Bitcoin is going to become the undisputed winner, because there has been no hacking in Bitcoin so far. There has been no, there have been hacks of exchanges, etc. But Bitcoin has not been compromised so far. It's, it's like pretty much very purist. And it is defined to be one thing, a store of value. And some people say that, if it will not become a currency, it will not become a store of value. I disagree with it. I think actually, dollars and rupees and rubles and yuans are actually better as a currency. You just use them for a day-to-day life. And, when you need something, let's say a large transaction, you can use either, and it's a cross-border transaction, for example, you can use Bitcoin, or you can use some other store of wealth for these large transactions, but you don't need to use Bitcoin as a currency for it to be valuable. For example, if you have, let's say, gold as a means of investment, you don't use it as a currency, but it does not make it any less potent as a store of value. Same thing with real estate. I mean, you don't go around telling people, I have these 5 properties, exchange it for this thing. That doesn't work. But property is definitely one of the best exchange, stores of value. But the only issue with property is it's not easily liquidated, right? You can't liquidate it when you want it. Gold can be liquidated fairly easily, but the problem with gold is, the security issues. If you keep it with somebody, then you don't know when the company goes bankrupt. But if you keep it with yourself, I mean, you can easily get robbed. It's very visible and kind of tough to manage that way. So I think there are a lot of things in Bitcoin, that make it very, very potent long term. And think about it, right? Bitcoin was created just after 2008 crash, because the whole thesis was that the governments are printing money because they want to just control the populations in some way, right? And it's a indirect way of taxation, actually, money printing. So that is the whole thesis why it was created, right? And in the next crash, exactly precipitated by money printing, I think it just proves Bitcoin's thesis even more in the long term. Yes, there is pain, it's come down by what, 70%. It might go, you know, 10, 20, 30, maybe half, like 50% more, but that's okay. I think people who believe in Bitcoin, they have seen much worse situations. But people who don't, I think for them, who's somebody who came in 6 months ago, does not understand the concept, might be scary situation. But for me, I'm a believer, and I feel that Bitcoin's thesis has actually been proven more than any other, any time previous than now. So Bitcoin is going to be my asset of choice, and pretty much, I am very, very big believer in Bitcoin. So hope that helps. And let me make a few more videos on Bitcoin just to explain what it is, etc., etc., so that people. So all the things that I'm anyway explaining to people on my friends and family on phone, I can make those videos here, and just it might be easier for everybody. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.